Hey everybody, welcome to Bigfoot Input, where we value your input on Bigfoot. If you're not familiar with us, basically we're just some Bigfoot enthusiasts that started this blog as a way to remove all of our Bigfoot pictures from our phones. We wanted to put it on Facebook, and it just turned into something else. So here we are rolling with it. We wanted to do this segment, which, bear with us. This is our first episode. We're going to run it kind of like a podcast style. So, there's going to be, I'm sure I'm going to be tripping over my words and stuttering and whatnot, but we're just going to roll with it. And hopefully it comes out as something entertaining and educational for you guys. First of all, thank you if you're listening. We appreciate your support. We're going to keep it brief, but we're going to tell a good story tonight. So basically, we are just a blog. We get into different sides of Bigfoot, be it the evidence or the field research, the armchair research, which is very important. And we also get into the humor and merchandising side of Bigfoot, so we kind of get into all of it. We wanted to do this podcast thing, although I didn't really know what it was going to become, so I was thinking to myself, well, when you read a story or, you're listening to a story, you're probably drinking something. And so we decided to call it Bigfoot and Booze. And I wanted to do each story to have some sort of Bigfoot related booze to go along with it. But the unfortunate truth is there's maybe less than a dozen beers, a few wines, and almost no cocktails. Surprisingly, you'd think that would be the easiest one. But so we started another segment called Cryptid Cocktails, which, if you haven't gone to our blog yet, Bigfoot Input on Facebook, JQ Works on Facebook, Bigfoot Input on YouTube, which we are just now launching. But you can go to our blog, you can see the cocktails that are being made with the Bigfoot names, stories to be associated with them. Should be a fun thing to get into. And we'll bring those back in as that builds. But as for right now, we're going to work with what we've got. So this, again, is our sort of inaugural episode of this podcast, if you will. And we're going to call this episode Bigfoot and Booze, Episode 1, The Indiana Foot Chase. And if you will excuse me, I'm going to go to my script now because I had to write this down. It's a hell of a story, and I didn't want to miss anything about it. But so let's talk about the beer real quick. We are drinking Sierra Nevada Bigfoot 2021, which is a barley wine. I've had it once. I do not remember what it tasted like. So we're going to try that right here now, actually, and see what that's about. And I'm going to let you guys know. Ooh-wee. Okay. Well, that's interesting. So I'm going to come back to that. I think right now I want to dive right into the story because I hope you guys find it as fascinating as I do. So I'm going to say this guy contacted me with this story kind of randomly too. And he said that he'd only ever told the story to 2 people. He really didn't get a lot of positive feedback about it. He was kind of nervous about going public with it because he was afraid of repercussions to his family. Find people trespassing on his family's land and just, various things. Okay, he just didn't want to do it. So we totally understand that. We respect his right to remain anonymous, and we're just going to move forward with the story without talking about him. However, I wanted to thank him personally for sharing this story with us because we think it's a great story. And I think I'm just going to dive right into it right now. So he says, I'm from a small town in southern Indiana, but I won't mention the name for privacy's sake. We hunt deer there just about every year, and I can tell you that on more than one occasion, I've seen something that I couldn't quite explain, but mainly it was obscured by brush, so I was able to write it off as something else. So about 10 years ago, I went out hunting. When I got to my blind in the pine thicket, it was still dark. I'm sure everyone knows what a blind is. Basically a fabric that makes you blend in with your surrounding environments so you get a better shot of, taking a shot at your prey. So he said it was still dark. The early dawn where you can only see shadows, even though the sun is starting to come up over the horizon. So all I can really see was the silhouette of the trees as it was slowly starting to get lighter out. I remember it was about 60 degrees, so not exactly cold, but still fairly cool. So as it started to get lighter, I could see two doe move into a clear spot. I had a good shot, but I was waiting on a buck, so I just sat there quietly and just watched them. As I was looking through my scope, I caught a little glint, like an eye shine, reflection or something. I kept my scope on it, just watching the bush, looking at this eye shine. I was hoping that it was a nice big buck, so I readied my 12 gauge. So as the narrator, I have to break here in the story for a second and talk about tapetum lucidum. This is the official term for what we commonly call eye shine. It's basically a layer of tissue behind the eye, or rather in the eye, that lies behind the retina. It reflects visible light back through the retina, increasing the light available to the photoreceptors. It contributes to superior night vision of some animals, most of which are nocturnal. Fact of the matter is, eye shine is a byproduct of tapetum lucidum. Eye shine occurs in a wide variety of colors, including white, blue, green, yellow, pink, red, etc. You'll find eye shine in many mammals, including horses, cats, dogs, raccoons, coyotes, rodents, possums, and birds, especially owls. And owls are going to play a big part in our search for Bigfoot, but we'll get back to that later on. So real quick, let's talk about this beer. I'm going to take another drink. The very first thing I notice is there's a very pungent sort of kick that hits you, oddly enough, in the roof of the mouth first. It's very high on hops, but it's also very high on what I'm assuming is barley. So it has kind of a sweet, malty flavor, but it's also paired with the bitterness from the hops, that sort of grapefruit flavor in the back. It's good, but it's a lot to take in at first. It's a little surprising. But if you're into stronger beers, if you want to experience something different, I mean, it's different. You really have to kind of give it a chance to really experience it. I like it so far. I don't know if it's something that you want to drink 2 or 3 of, frankly, but as a sipping beer, it's pretty good. So, let's get back into this. So he said, at that point, what I hoped was a buck moved more in the bush. More like a person crouched down than a bear, and certainly not the buck I was waiting for. He said, I kept my scope on this thing for a while, what felt like hours. But of course, it was only a few minutes, and I could start to make out more details. I can clearly see the head and shoulders. Now, we've had people trespass on this property before to hunt. That's not unusual. So I was anticipating having to confront this person and inform them that they were on private property. But that would never happen. At that moment, the two does got spooked and ran off. The figure in the bush just sat there for a few seconds and then stood up. It was barely past sunup, but I could see fairly clearly now. I was about 100 feet away and in pretty thick bush, but I no longer thought it was a person. It was too big, and it was covered in hair. Every once in a while, black bears will wander onto our property, but this wasn't no bear. No snout, no little ears on the top of its head. And it just didn't move like a bear. Yeah, bears can walk on their hind legs, but they don't for extended periods of time. I just sat there. What do you do when a creature walks off the pages of myth and is right in front of you? I just froze. I stayed there quiet as I could. What I am looking at is a large, bipedal, ape-type creature, approximately 6.5 to 7 feet tall, wide, and covered in 4-inch long hairs. Its arms were clearly longer than its he says to its legs, but I think he means arms were clearly longer past the kneecaps, than they should be. So he starts walking down the hillside away from me, and I felt a slight sense of relief. But then it started sniffing the air and jerked its head before it turned around to face me. All of a sudden it hits me. He knows that I'm there. I ran. Wow. Okay, cool story. If you talk to this guy yourself, you see that this guy is really genuine, and whatever happened to him really shook him up badly for years. There's no part of me that feels the story was contrived. He even had some pictures, not of the creature, but he had some pictures of a footprint and different things that he shared with me personally. I won't share them online because I don't want them led back to him. If he ever decides to come forward, that's his choice, but we're not going to be responsible for that. So, one more time, we're going to take a drink of this beer. Interesting. Every sip's a little different. But I'm going to finish up this story now. I wanted to thank you guys. Again, I realize that this is our first run. It's probably a little rough. We appreciate the patience. We appreciate your support. We are up over 2,300 members now, which is just insane. It's nothing that we thought we would ever accomplish, or that we even tried to accomplish, really. But it keeps growing, it keeps getting bigger, it keeps going in different directions, and we're very excited about it. We enjoy doing it. This is hopefully the first of many of these. If you guys love it, please let us know. If you don't like it, let us know why. If there's something we can improve on, go ahead and talk to us about it. We want your feedback. We want your input. And if this goes well and people like it, we will be doing more in the future. I will be dissecting people's stories, getting them out of them and making them into a readable story. Or we might do some discussions about various Bigfoot activities or videos or something. I don't really know. We're going to move forward with this thing we're just going to grow with it. So here we go. Let's finish up this story. So I ran. I ran like I had never ran before. I ran faster and harder than I ever thought I was capable of. I ran towards the logging road that was nearby. I could hear its big footsteps behind me, quickly approaching with each step. Boom, boom, boom. Fear gripped me. I ran so fast that I felt like my heart was going to beat out of my chest. Boom, boom, boom. At some point, I ran down a hill. It was probably about 20 feet and a pretty steep grade, so I slid down it halfway and I tripped and landed on my left side. I turned on my back and I saw it at the top of this hill. It was breathing heavy and growling at me. I was certain that this thing was going to kill me, and I would stand no chance fighting it. So as I stood up, I raised my 12 gauge and lined up the best shot that I could and let one off. I hit it in the upper left shoulder. I was shaking and couldn't aim worth a damn, but I knew I hit it because it let out a sound that I'll never forget. It was kind of like a coyote howl mixed with that sound, the one at the beginning of the song, Down with the Sickness. As it screamed, I could see its teeth, and they were like ours, but bigger with long canines. After I fired the first shot, I turned and ran. I was scrambling to get up the hill onto that logging road, clawing at the dirt to get up there. I ran. I ran the last 100 yards like an Olympic sprinter, and I didn't stop until I got to my grandparents' cabin. When I got in the door, I was white as a sheet and covered in sweat and visibly shaken. My grandma made a comment to me about being back early, but when she saw my face, she said, "You seen him, didn't you?" I hunt there still, but I have never been back to that particular thicket, and I don't step foot in the woods without a gun. Okay, guys, there you go. That's the story. Obviously, in no way, shape, or form do we ever condone hunting these creatures. This gentleman was not hunting these creatures. He was legally hunting on his family's property and was obviously accosted by this creature, and he was afraid for his life, and he did what he had to do to survive. So we respect that. Honestly, that's about all I have to say. You'll find the pictures of the beer that we're drinking in the slideshow that's going on right now. Again, Sierra Nevada Bigfoot 2021. I guess they do this every year. People maybe collect these things. I really don't know. We're just drinking the beer, And again, really want to thank this guy for his story. He's a really nice person, and I hope that at least his story being told brings him some sort of comfort. I don't know. But that's it, guys. We're going to call it a night. And again, we hope you like this little podcast thing we have here. If you do, like I said, please let us know. If you don't, let us know too. It's fine. Hit us up. And, honestly, what would help us the most is just share with everybody that you know. If you know anybody that is even remotely curious about Bigfoot, wants to talk about it, share this with them. Share our page. Push it out into the world, and at least let us get some exposure to these people that might want to talk about Bigfoot, but maybe they're afraid to. But anyway, that's it, guys. And hope you guys have a good night. And we are signing off.